Hello, I'm going to do a Copic markers video today. I'm using the sketch set A as I'm showing here, and I will show you here in a second. These are other colors I have purchased. This is what I use for like a base color for skin. These are kind of a shadow color that I start with. These are the blush colors that I use a lot. I'm gonna demonstrate a little bit here on how I blend the colors together. So I'm choosing these three as like a base color, and a blush color I just grabbed a random one from that list. What you do is you just go back and forth, blending them together, just kind of have like a diffused look a little bit better. But I'm going to show you guys what I use before I jump into actually drawing. Obviously different skin tones will have like different colors, but here's just like an example of how to blend. And for shadows, I usually start with either C1 or W1, and those are cool gray and warm gray, depending on if I want the shadows to be cool or warm. And from there I build my shadows up a little bit more. And my favorite shadow that I use, the color is BV23. That is kind of like my last step with shadows. But same thing, if you wanted a soft edge with shadows, you would just do some blends here. If you don't want a soft edge, you want like a hard edge, then you won't be blending. But yeah, sometimes I go over what my skin like undertone was and kind of blend those in all together again just to make sure it looks natural. But here is BV23. It's my favorite shadow color. Blend, blend, blend. But yeah, here I'm going to show you how I use these colors. You'll see in the middle of this video that there is kind of a skip, and that's mostly because my camera died and I didn't realize. So you get to see a time skip. But you'll see here that I'm using the same colors that I just showed in the beginning of the video. Markers is that same with watercolor. When you first start putting them down on paper, they look much darker, but once they dry, they look a lot lighter. So don't be afraid laying down color, especially shadows, if you want a more dramatic lighting effect. You see here I'm kind of careful about where I put my colors down, just because if I accidentally go over a highlight part, I can't really fix that. I mean, you can with like gouache and like jelly roll pens, but usually those look a little bit awkward. Here I'm doing blush or a more warmer color. Usually it's around the eye, the nose, around the mouth, lips region. But I'm looking at the reference and this is what I'm seeing. I believe the color I'm using for blush here is RO2, which is also one of my favorite blush color to use. And you can see here I'm blending it because I want a more diffused look. Now for the shadow, I'm using W1 first, warm gray. I usually like to use actually either warm gray or cool gray 1 to lay down the shadows. just kind of block it out. And I usually like to go light to dark. Same with watercolor. I don't want to go too dark too fast because you can always add more later on. And it's going to look a little bit crazy at first when you're using Copic markers. Things look a little bit off, but sometimes I just have to trust the process, you know. Usually they turn out okay. But my biggest thing I've learned is not being afraid laying down colors, especially darker colors. I remember when I first started, I was really scared putting down dark colors because I didn't want to have anything too dark too fast, and then things just looked very off. And this is just practice anyway, so like, don't be afraid of making mistakes. I'm trying to do like a longer video version of what I actually real-time like paint and draw. Let me know if this is something that's better, or if you prefer my previous formats where I do it more quickly. Like here, I'm taking the time to actually show you what my actual process looks like in real time. Previous videos, I've just kind of skipped around, so let me know if this is better or if it's boring. And at this point, I'm looking at this and I'm like, oh my gosh, this looks insane. Like, this does not look like her. But you'll get there. I also don't use the colorless blender. I have never used that to blend. I usually prefer blending with colors that I'm actually using. So for this portrait, there is a very distinct like shadow and light here, and I'm blocking out the shadows and leaving the light parts, highlights, completely blank. Same with the lips, you build up the colors how you would building up skin tone. You start very light. But you see how the markers are drying much lighter compared to when you first down the colors. So like, don't be afraid to go darker colors. And if you don't, that's okay too, because you can just kind of layer it and keep adding on to it as you go. Still using the blending technique that I learned. Again, this is Warm Gray 1. I forgot to do her neck color blocking, so that's what I'm going back for. You'll see later on that there is going to be a skip in time like I've mentioned, but same thing applies. What I did was I just kept layering the colors and looking at my reference. Reference is going to be your best friend here to see all the colors. And the beginning I showed my most used colors. That's just kind of the base colors that I start with. Like here are kind of the base colors that I've been using, but later on you can add different color to have like different effects. think next video I'll probably do a more bluish focused portrait, maybe with Copic marker, just so you can see what that looks like. It's also really nice and a good idea to have a separate piece of paper, the same paper that you're using to swatch the colors before you put them down. And it's nice to also prepare beforehand to see how they all blend in together before you start putting colors down. Usually I personally like to make the skin tone a little bit more gray and then have pops of color throughout, like the blush, the oranges and the reds, just to emphasize that. But you don't have to do a gray tone on the skin tone. That's just what I prefer. I know that Copic markers are kind of expensive, so yeah, you can definitely use cheaper markers. I have used cheaper markers before, more budget-friendly ones, but I've decided to upgrade, I think a year and a half ago, to Copic markers, and they definitely blend a lot better, and the colors actually look like what they're supposed to look like. I've noticed with other brands that the marker cap, the colors don't really match when you actually put the colors down. And it's like, huh, okay. But with Copic markers, it's pretty spot on. There are so many different sets of Copic markers you can use. I just happen to have set A, just because that's what people recommended online to start with, for portrait at least. You also don't need to get the 72 set. You can start with much smaller sets and just get the colors you want. You're gonna see here is the time skip happening very soon. So that's what she looked like after my little attempt. But you can see I tried to do the lighting. I'm using the Jelly Roll pen, gel pen for highlights. It's my favorite to use for highlights. I don't really like using gouache, just because the pens are just more convenient for me. But I love highlights, it's my favorite part. If you have any questions about colors I use or recommendations, you can leave a comment below and I will try and help to the best of my ability. Here, I'll show you all the colors I used for this portrait. Yeah, thank you. Hopefully that helped. I'll be back soon.